Everybody, welcome back into Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. We were talking with the District Attorney's Office out of Lafourche. Christine Russell, of course, is the District Attorney, and David Melanson is the Public Information Officer. Thank you guys for being with us. Great time to be here. You guys take home a real prestigious award coming out of the Acadiana area, the Community Foundation of Acadiana. Every year they raise money, and then they give it to, I guess they give it to a DA's office, a parish sheriff's office, and a troop. And we won 2 out of the 3 from this area. So tell me a little bit about it.
We did. It was very proud to stand next to the representatives of Troop C. Every year they look around in the state, and they want to award a sheriff's office, a DA's office, and a troop for something positive and what they're doing in the community. And so we were so honored to be chosen this year to accept that award. They give you $25,000 to use for your program so that we can continue the good work that we do. So it was a great night, a great honor. And again, we have an amazing team at our office that really is proactive in our community, and so I'm glad that they were recognized. And
I guess one of the things they recognized from you, your work with Respect You, which is a school program and the expansion of victims' rights. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when we started in 2018, I think the entire team understood that we sort of had an obligation that if we were going to truly make a difference in our community, it wasn't going to be just about prosecution. While that's a humongous part of what we do, to keep our community safe, to really make a change in our community, we had to be proactive and get into our schools, so that hopefully maybe we can change them a little and to make better choices. And so our team kind of came up with this respect theme and came up with Respect You, with the concept that if you respect yourself, you were going to respect others and in turn respect the community and make better choices. So all of the school programs that we have falls under this umbrella of respect. And that word is incorporated to all of our programs that we do, whether it be with our small children, whether it be with our 4th graders, our 6th graders, and then when we get into our high school programs.
Yeah, I guess it's real important there. And then victims' rights is always a key issue, too, in everything.
Yeah, so what we did with our victims department, it's such a huge department and so important because, you know, so many people are dragged into the justice system. They have no idea what to do. They're victims of crime. They're worried. They're scared. And we had a great victims department before, but we hired an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker, and she kind of came in and spoke that language, that mental health language that we needed. So she could assist our victims in the beginning of a case to make sure that they felt as though they had the support they needed from our office, and to also make sure that they understood the process as we went through. We also utilized her in our school programs. We have a girl empowerment program that she runs for one of our schools. And we also use her in our pretrial diversion program to make sure that if we want to do an assessment of a person, she can go through that assessment and let us know what's going on in that person's life to make sure that we're fulfilling the needs for that as well.
Yeah, you know, look, in this complicated time of our lives, right? And aggressive in many ways, you know, locked in a lot of different ways. So mental health is a big role in that. Hey, Dave, let me ask you, talk to me a little more about the foundation. This is not just a small little operation out of Lafayette, huh?
No. In fact, the banquet was so well put together. You know, we felt like royalty, the way they just rolled out the red carpet and the way that they treated us. They actually began their foundation in 2000. And what was really impressive and one of the milestones that they've been able to achieve over the course of the last 20 to 21 years is they've given out $425 million to our area. And that's to have an organization that is so heavily invested in Louisiana, South Louisiana, and Bayou regions. It was a huge honor for us to be able to be chosen as a district attorney's office after looking at the district attorney's offices from across the state to give us this award. It meant a lot to us coming from such an organization.
Yeah, well, tell me about some of the other. We talked about Troop C, but real interesting ideas coming out of Ascension Parish.
Yeah, so the organization was focused is to highlight the positives that are going on throughout our state. Unfortunately, I know that people report the news, and unfortunately there's a lot of bad things that happen, but there's also a lot of good things that happen, and people need to hear that as well. So it was great for us to sit back and hear the good things that were coming out of Troop C and the way that they've been able to implement programs and create partnerships to increase the safety for the people that they serve. But also Ascension Parish, they actually purchased a park, and they house it with retired law enforcement officers that help underserved areas with homework and just giving them programs to kind of get them off the streets and keep them focused on their studies. And they were actually honored at that banquet as well. So it was great to share the stage with organizations that are doing some good in our area.
Yeah, to have great touch points, right?
Yeah.
You know, which is something I guess is always an issue, right? Our touch points aren't always the best, even if you're pulled over for an accident or pulled over for speeding or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes your touch points aren't great. It's probably good to have touch points with law enforcement.
Yeah, we talk about that in our school programs in the course of teaching them about respect, is that there are millions and millions of positive interactions that happen with law enforcement officials across this country, definitely across our state, every single day. And we need to hear more about that and less about the problems. Now, we understand that we have to fix the problems, and it's good to highlight them, but I think that people get the wrong notion whenever they're highlighted so much, they think that's all that's taking place. So awards like this was great because it highlights the good that's going on, and it reminds people that the people that they've elected to serve them and the people that are wearing the uniforms and going into the courtrooms are actually doing a good job.
Yeah, and y'all finding that, Christine, that
Absolutely. And I think what was also refreshing is to see that everyone understood that the only way we'll see change is if we put some of our resources in our children. And so I think, you know, seeing that our area, our local area, Donaldsonville, Lafourche, that we understand where we need to spend some time, and that's the only way we'll see change is if we invest some time with our children.
Sure. Yeah, you know, without a doubt. And look, you know, things come together. 9/11 brought us together. I think this hurricanes kind of make everybody like, hey, let somebody out and cut in front of you. You know, let's be nicer to one another. Look, day 100 is Tuesday. Day 100 since the storm hit. How's life after that, which comes after all the quarantine and all that stuff? Which last time we talked, I was amazed you guys hadn't even had trials, and then you get a storm, so that even pushes it back even more. So tell me a little bit about where we're at and posts of those both things.
Yeah, I think, you know, our office is trying to get back to work, and we have been meeting with our prosecutors, making sure that we're prioritizing our cases. Our office itself is in remediation. We have a lot of damage internally, and so we have a lot of work going on right now within our office. So it's uncomfortable, but again, we can still handle that. As far as courts are concerned, we have a jury trial that's going to start next week. So you've sort of seen the tide turn a little bit. We're kind of getting back to business. Not all of the courtrooms are ready to go with trials. And, you know, I think I'm sure in Terrebonne and other surrounding areas, one of our biggest concerns is bringing in a jury. You know, you need to be sensitive to the fact that most of our southern portions of our parishes are still struggling. There's still debris.
Right. Yeah.
Many of them are still out of their homes. There's still people living in tents and trailers. And some of them have moved. So trying to bring that jury together, we'll see next week how that looks. I know Terrebonne, I think, has had a trial. They've kind of gotten back to business as best they can. So to answer that, you know, I think we were a year behind because of COVID. We were kind of a year behind this year now with Ida, and we're slowly trying to get back to having a court day look like what a court day should look like, all the same time understanding that some people are still struggling.
So it is a backlog?
Oh, absolutely, there's a backlog. I think we've lived with a backlog. I think the justice system itself moves slower than a snail, but even now, you know, we have a lot of big cases, a lot of murders that were 2 and 3 years old that we were ready to go on, and now we're even more. Our concern always is making sure that we can locate our witnesses, those that may have relocated, to make sure that we're still good to go. But our prosecutors are really good. They stay focused. They understand that we've got to try those cases and move them as best we can. We're working with our judges to see if we can get additional criminal court dates so that we can maybe have more trials than we normally do. We have 5 divisions. Usually we're given 6 weeks a year per division, so that's 6 trials a year. We're hoping to get more for 2022, so maybe we can move those dockets a little bit
Yeah,
better.
it's not just the DA's office, obviously it's the courts too. Right?
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the concerns always is we try to be a voice for our victims. Victims have been sitting around waiting for their day as well so that they can see some finalization, some justice served. And so we really want to try to move the cases the best that we can, and at the same time understand and be sensitive to the fact that not everybody's truly back to normal in our parishes.
Right, and we don't want to convict anybody. So what happens to the people that are like going to be on trial?
Yeah, and a lot of them are still sitting in jail. A lot of them are still waiting for
And
their
there's
day.
no time for that?
There was delays, some suspensions of time delays for many. Many are still on bond, but there were some time delays. We're having to move them, and we're getting them, again, prioritized and trying to put them on the top of the list. Next week, there's a murder trial that will be going, and we have quite a few in January and February and March that are set to go. So we're kind of looking at that as well to make sure that we're staying within the required time delays. as well as respecting the fact that some defendants are ready to go to trial, they need to go to trial, and some victims need those trials.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Dave, has things changed as far as crime, the stats? You see anything different that like after quarantine, during the quarantine, and after a storm? Do things change statistically from that?
I think statistically things have been pretty balanced. I think that the message that we were trying to get out there at the time of quarantine and the storm is, number one, stress levels are high. And especially during COVID, when people were locked up, it was important that everybody remained vigilant, that they watched to make sure that children weren't being abused, that spouses or dating partners weren't being abused, to make sure that what the normal method of letting people know or reaching out for help when they go to school, say take a child for instance, when they go to school and they're reaching out to a counselor or teacher saying, I need help, something's not right, going on at home, that couldn't happen because they were stuck at home. So that was the message that we tried to push out. But as far as statistics and data, I think it pretty much remained the same. I think law enforcement tried to take a very understanding approach to understand that, look, stress levels are high, but I think all in all, it remained pretty consistent.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things you guys have kind of tried to deal with a little more is mental health, right? And you have a social worker on staff?
Mental health is I think we've always understood that the root of most of our crimes involves something to do with mental health. You have people who self-medicate because maybe they're bipolar, maybe they're depressed. And so if you understand the whys, sometimes then you can better gear the consequences or the help that you give to that specific reason. So we really incorporate the mental health element into our programs within our office, our pretrial diversion program, as well as have that LCSW kind of give us a different look at some of our defendants too. I think the justice system is trying to balance this whole justice reform and helping people who have problems, substance abuse, mental health, at the same time making sure justice is done and the community safe. It's a difficult balance right now to try to see really where's justice served. Is it truly giving the help to certain people, or is to make sure that we lock people up to make sure our community is safe? And it's difficult to do that. I think having the mental health element in your office and having that discussion to make sure that we're addressing it is key and very, very important right now in our system.
Right, and it doesn't mean you're soft on crime, right?
Absolutely
Because you're worried about, right. So.
Absolutely not. It doesn't mean that it just is a better understanding of the why. And sometimes when we understand why certain people do what they do, then that means that when we give conditions maybe in an offer, maybe whether it not be treatment or whether it means it's a longer jail sentence that we're going to offer, we understand better of why they do what they do.
Hey, you got some cool stuff coming up in La Rose, right?
Yes.
The Welcome Home Lafourche, and you guys are part of it.
Absolutely. After Ida, we had a meeting with President Archie Chasson and Sheriff Weber and their staffs, and just really thought, how can we get the community together during the holiday time? What can we do to kind of uplift everyone? At the same time, really be there to address their needs. And so on Sunday from 11 to 5 at the La Rose Civic Center, we're all coming together. There's tons of vendors that'll be there as well. Santa Claus is making a surprise visit for the children. There'll be some crafts, food. It's a free event, but we're just, as public officials, all going to come together and just do some things for the family. There's also going to be a lot of mental health professionals there as well, from our office, the sheriff's office, from parish government, as well as services around our area who'll be there to talk to families that may be struggling as well.
Yeah, here's the flyer, and this will be December 12th. Of course, that'll be a Sunday down at the La Rose Civic Center. And you're right about mental health, and we've talked about that a little bit, how y'all incorporate it in your office. But this time, coming out of COVID, the media, the way the media acts, if you're on social media or whatever, you're scared to death that something's out there is going to get you, right? Whether it's Antifa or the coronavirus or white supremacists. There's something that's trying to scare you. So I can imagine there's some people that are just really messed up mentally health. So
I think after Ida, so many people.
Or a storm.
Well, there's so much depression. There's so many families that struggle during the holidays anyway with their children and during this time, but even more so now when they maybe not even have a home to live in. When we would go to distribution sites to give out food, our counselor came with us. And while we're handing out the food, she would go car to car and introduce herself and just say, "How are you?" she had a notebook full of names of people that she followed up with and put them to different service organizations because they were not doing so well. And they were waiting for someone to ask them that question, how are you doing?
Right.
So we know people are struggling, but we have so many people coming out on Sunday to be there, to talk, to help families, to have a good time, but also be there if they need resources.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you're right. Like I say, I can see right now a lot of people be scared to death just to leave their house. Hey, Dave, tell me a little bit about safety measures. You know, look, we're in the middle of holiday seasons. People will be starting to do parties that are all probably coming up the end of this week and to the end of the year. So y'all have some safety tips that might help out folks?
Sure. So I think you said a lot when you said that people, considering what everybody's been through for the last year and a half, people kind of staying indoors. Things look a little different for this holiday season. There's a lot of online shopping. So people need to know how to protect themselves. And so one of the best ways you can protect yourself is when you go visit a website to make a purchase, look at the top in the web browser. If you see a padlock that is locked, that means that site has been verified. If it's unlocked, that means that's an unverified site, that it's not secure, it's not properly encrypted. So you're going to probably want to be leery about that.
Don't put your credit card in.
Exactly. And you lead me right to my next point, is how to make online purchases. We would encourage you to use a credit card if you have one. Don't put your debit card information. There's two reasons why you would want to do that. Number one, they don't have direct access to your bank account. If someone that has bad intentions gets a hold of your private information. And number two, most credit cards have a zero liability policy, which means that basically they'll do an investigation and you're not held liable for any type of fraudulent activity on your accounts. Let's just say somebody was to get a hold of your credit card information. So it protects you. And also, Facebook Marketplace. I've been hearing that a lot. My wife is the queen of Facebook Marketplace. I always have to go in behind her to make sure that when she's meeting up with someone that it's going to be safe. And that's another thing we want to encourage people about is if you were to make an online purchase on Facebook Marketplace, make sure that you, if you can, bring somebody with you. At the very least, let a loved one know where you're going. Maybe be on the phone with them when you're making that purchase. Now, I know the Thibodeau Police Department has a site, but you can just go in any law enforcement parking lot. If you're going to do a meetup, go to a safe place, well lit, high trafficked area, such as the Thibodeau Police Department has a site in Thibodeau where you can go and have a safe exchange. But any public agency, law enforcement agency parking lot where they have law enforcement officers that are present, that would be a great place to make any type of exchange if you were to purchase online from an individual. Now that's just online safety. The whole traditional, if you're going to retail, be cautious. Don't have earbuds in, don't be distracted, don't linger in parking lots, park in well-lit areas. Your valuables, it only takes a second. So keep your eyes on your valuables, tucked away, tucked close. Your children, I used to cringe when I was younger and I would see kids on with the backpacks with the leash.
Right.
And as a parent now, I understand.
Right.
I understand that now that I'm a father. I get it.
So
but just
boys.
keep your kids close. Make sure that they have a plan if you guys get separated, if you go do retail. And then last, your home, lock it up. Lock your windows, lock your doors. Take away crimes of opportunity. Don't leave things around, and lock your vehicle. Most of the vehicle burglaries that happen while you're sleeping in your bed at night and your vehicles are burglarized, it's unlocked. Yeah. They're pulling on the handle. In fact, we see video footage all the time of walking up to a car, pulling on the handle. If it's locked, they move on. And you say, well, I don't have anything valuable in my vehicle. If you've ever been burglarized or victimized from vehicle burglary, it robs you of your peace of mind,
Absolutely.
even if they didn't take any valuables.
Do we have an issue with the deliveries, home deliveries, like people stealing porch stuff?
Well, I have not seen any complaints that have come through our office recently on what you've seen nationwide of those. If they are, they're few and far between.
Well, that's good to know.
That is good. And so there's so many home cameras now, home systems, that really we may have curtailed some of that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, yeah, this time of year, it's time, I think people are being nicer. Like I said, I think people are being nicer.
So.
Let's continue that trend
really
for a little while, right?
Great.
Maybe the 2 years after all this other stuff. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all being here. All right, we'll be right back for more Bite Time after this.